Hello, welcome to another episode of the Agency Founders Podcast with me, Sam Hurley.
And me, Antonio Wedrell.
And today we're talking about imposter syndrome. So this wasn't going to be my first question, but after mentioning this to a member of our team, it was his first question. So I will ask you, is imposter syndrome a thing? Is it real?
Imposter syndrome, I think, is real. Whether, the feeling of it is real, whether the actual thing is real is a different story. I feel like that's a very deep answer to a question, but it's more just like, obviously people feel that they are in something that they shouldn't be for whatever reason. That's a feeling. Whether that's real or not depends. Like if someone who's, if now I was sworn in as president of the United States, I think it'd probably be fairly factual to think, yeah, that should be real because he shouldn't be in that position. So that's like a feeling versus whether it's factual or not. Whether someone that's like of a certain age should be managing a few people, that's up for debate. Like they can feel like they shouldn't be there, but actually in reality, if they've got all the background experience, then yes. So that's how I'd answer that question, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a thing, but I think it's been blown up and labeled and become this bigger thing than it actually is. I think in a nutshell, it's literally just you lose confidence or you get a lack of confidence after something you perceive as bigger than what it actually is, i.e., as you say, like President of the United States, you get imposter syndrome from that because you know it's too big. And I think it usually happens with like in a work scenario, particularly agencies, would be changing roles, becoming a head of department, a director for the first time. You see that label or title, and then the pressure's there, and then that then leads to confidence, a lack of, which then gets labelled towards imposter syndrome.
Have you ever felt imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I definitely have. The one I would definitely remember was when I first became a director. So I think, and again, I think this is super common for agencies. So I think like when you set up an agency, you are doing your disciplines like when we started. So my role was essentially SEO exec, senior SEO, SEO manager, head of SEO, and you're doing all of that while doing operations, marketing, etc. As you build out the team, they're slowly taking off the SEO roles from you. So then at one point it was like I was SEO manager, then we hired Dan, then I became essentially head of SEO. And these weren't formalized roles, like that wasn't my job title. It's like the tasks that you're doing day to day. So now I was like head of SEO, he's an SEO manager. And as that kept moving up, it got to a point, I think it was 2021, start of that. So it was like, I remember everything was handed over. Dan was leading direct delivery. And then it was just like, right, I'm now a director. I need to know what to do day to day as a director. And that's when I was just like, what the hell does a director do? And then that's where it's like, yeah, imposter syndrome kicked in. And then again, it's just overthinking it. And I think when it comes back to, maybe before I go into the next section, I'll ask you, so have you ever had it?
So I had it like when we first started really early on. I think I was really young when we started. I was 23. So I think then I'd get on like sales calls. I'd be speaking to people who are so experienced, trying to convince them to spend money with us. So I think I felt it then. Since then, I don't think I have much because I think I dealt with it then, if that makes sense. Because I dealt with it more from an age perspective. I was like, I'm far too inexperienced and young to be running an agency saying that we do much better than other agencies that have been going 15, 20 years. That's how I felt for a bit. And then I actually realised, well, the quality of our work is so high. Why am I feeling this way? And I think I managed that imposter bit quite well. Just pushed it to the side.
Yeah, because I think I actually knew you were going to say that, because I think when we first started the agency, I think you kept not referencing imposter syndrome, but like asking, just like, yeah, I don't even know what questions you're asking, but just around like, do you ever get worried or like how do you get past the whole just like know that we're doing a good job type thing? I think so. I've got notes in terms of like, because we've just done this recently with a member of our team, well, a few members of our team are struggling with confidence. And like when you outline, if you think like what is confidence, like how do you describe confidence? 'Cause I've got notes because I've dug into this with a member of our team.
To me, confidence is just a trust in your own ability, your own mind to be able to do certain things. Like that's to me is what confidence is. Like I'm confident in doing like a sales pitch because I trust myself to be my very best self in that. I trust my preparation in advance of it. Like if that makes sense, it's like a trust in yourself.
So what are you trusting?
Myself.
And what is it about yourself? Is it your skill or your experience?
A combination of everything. I trust my skill, my experience, my form of preparation, like everything. I just trust. Like it's like a process. I just trust the process, and the process is me.
Yeah. So that word there is key, process. It's like I find it all interesting, like defining confidence, and then that then leads on to like, all right, so that is essentially what imposter syndrome is. And I was thinking how I tackled my own imposter syndrome. So then confidence is the expectations of a positive outcome, which is essentially what you were talking about. And it's like, do you have the confidence in the process or confidence in the outcome? Which is obviously two different elements, which is quite interesting. And then confidence isn't necessarily a personality trait. It's an assessment of a situation that sparks motivation. If you have confidence, you're motivated to put it into effort, to invest the time and resources and persist in reaching the goal.
Nice.
So then I was thinking back to like why I got that imposter syndrome when I became a director. And I think it is because you lose that foundational level of confidence. So I think in an example, when we set up the agency, I had confidence in my discipline of SEO. So I had like loads of case studies, had worked in-house. So then all of my confidence was coming from my knowledge of SEO. So then I didn't have any of the imposter syndrome doubt when we first started. When you become a director, again, like I said, super common in agencies to then lose your discipline. Even when you're a head of department, it's like you could be leading the SEO team or whatever discipline. You become a head of department and suddenly you're not doing SEO and you're disciplined day to day. So then that's where you lose your confidence. Then when I became a director, it's just like you lose all of that foundational level of what is it that makes it good at doing this job. So that's when I started to define what a director is, which again is a blog on the website, which you can read. And then from there, I think I just did a shitload of reading. So I would do like 2 hours of podcasts a day, I think, just like learning about general leadership and that side of things, because like directors are typically tied into leadership.
That's why you never did any work.
Yeah, exactly. This is on my dog walks in the evening, actually. And then that helps to build that foundational level of confidence then. And then after that, just focusing in on strengths. So it's like not focusing too much on your weaknesses and then more onto your strengths. And it's just a similar task we've been doing with members of our team recently, to try and rebuild confidence.
It's interesting, yeah. I think I know what you mean. I've never really thought about it in that way. Like, obviously, I experienced when we set up the business, because I think in my head it was like, I don't have confidence in myself to run a business because I've never done it before. As soon as I got that confidence to run a business.
Yeah. And I think where we started in particular, because you obviously your age, so you didn't have the SEO like depth. Well, I think you had an SEO job for like 2 years or something.
No, when you were talking, I was just trying to think like, I don't even know if you can define it as that, but I think my confidence was genuinely just blind optimism. It was almost just like, this is going to work. I know it's going to work. I've got no historical. I've got no like, yeah, I've done SEO. I know the industry. I know how an agency operates. I've been in-house. But I don't have enough to be like, oh yeah, 20 years of experience behind me. I know I can do this. Don't have any business experience. I just remember going into it just like, we're going to make this work because I trust in my ability. If I really care about something, I know I'll make it work. That's how that started. Then we initially started, and I remember those conversations is when I first started sort of having that imposter syndrome, where I think I was like, I'm asking for like fairly decent retainers. They can see I've got no wrinkle on my face. They're probably going to wonder how old this kid is. How am I going to do this? As soon as like sales started coming in and people sort of just saw beyond it, they saw actually what we were bringing rather than who, like how old I was. No one ever asked. I think then I was like, this is more of a deal in my head. Like it's not that big of a deal. And I think over time, I then like we moved roles so many times. I don't ever think I'd label it as like I had imposter syndrome with them. I think I'd just get to a point where I'm a bit like, I'm not sure if I'm doing this role right. Let me figure out what I need to be doing rather than oh, I don't feel like I should be in this. I deserve this, if that makes sense. I think that I had more of that, like, I want to be in this role. I deserve to be in this role. I've worked my arse off. I just don't know what I'm doing. So I need to learn everything I can and soak up everything possible to make it work. And there might even be like you creating like a great guide on what a director is. It might be me doing my own reading. It might be me learning on the job. But I don't think then, as time went on with the agency, I had that necessarily imposter syndrome. It's more just like, I need to figure this out because that's the only way this agency is going to function is if I figured out how the hell to do this role.
How much of yours was anxiety around your age as a number versus the lack of experience? So like, say you were a 34-year-old setting up the agency for the first time in a discipline you never knew about versus your just actual age.
I think it's just my age. Yeah, because I remember going into it being like, I've got enough knowledge, and the industry's changing every day. I've got enough knowledge to know.
You've got more knowledge than our clients that you're pitching to, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that in my head was like, I've got the SEO experience. Like, I helped turn around a magazine. I helped like so many brands at the agency. Like, I know what I'm doing. I just don't have 10, 15 years behind me, but I know exactly what I'm doing. So I know I can do a good job for brands. I think that was never a thing in my head, was like, do I have enough knowledge? For me, it was always just the age. I was like, are people going to take me and us seriously if I'm talking to them? And as soon as I got over that fear, because I realized no one actually cared, I was like, oh, we've got a business here. This could genuinely work.
Yeah.
And then when we hired, that was like the next time maybe I felt an element of it. But
yeah, I think wrapping up, I think it would be like, I think it is super common agency side, and I think it's not talked about enough, whether the term is the right term or not, but it's like, whether you find it as a founder, like the example I gave of like moving into a director position, not actually doing the discipline anymore, and just being like, wow, I've got a team of 20, 30, 40 people, and I don't even know what my day-to-day job is. How am I going to lead them? So whether it's that of yourself, if you don't have that issue yourself, somebody in your team is guaranteed to have this some scenario, like your SEO manager or discipline manager, whatever you call it, becomes a director. They will then feel it themselves because all of a sudden they're a director. And especially like if we've got people like we had in our company moving out of their discipline and they're moving into operations, again, that's super common agency side. They're going to have imposter syndrome all around a lack of clarity around what their role is and what that foundational knowledge is. But we've got a guide on the website all about what a director should be doing agency side. So at least that'll give some form of foundational knowledge and guide to directors in which way to go to build their own knowledge.
yeah, for sure. And also, just like last thing as well, it's like, remember, a lot of clients, so many clients that we've worked with and I've worked with, will also experience their own imposter syndrome. So whatever business agency you are, a lot of those are probably young, managing agencies maybe for the first time. And just know that is also possible, and you might see that, and it's sort of working out how does the account team support that person in their own role and develop them as well. So it's just being mindful that anyone within your circle can experience this as well.
Yep. All right, let's call it a day.
Let's call it a day. Let's do it.
All right, well, hit subscribe and follow wherever you're listening to us, and bye from me.
Bye from me as well.